Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call the meeting to order. We welcome anybody viewing audience on YouTube and the 5 visitors in-house. Thank you. Before we begin our meeting, I'll read the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are the stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We'll have a moment of silent reflection and then we'll stand for the singing of our national anthem. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that Councillor Reno and Councillor Spagnolo cannot make it for personal reasons. And we have Councillor Carrick joining via Zoom. Adoption of the minutes of July 26, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Desjardins, support Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, that'll be noted in the minutes. In the minutes of the regular meeting of council held July 12, 2022 be adopted as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malas, support Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Mayor's comments. I didn't write them out, but I just hope everybody's enjoying their summer thus far. We have free swimming at the outdoor pool from 2 to 4 daily. So anybody who needs a place to cool off in this weather, please join us for a free swim. And we also have the night market. We have Sing with Sling, is it? The night market, our entertainer. Jeff Johnson, sorry. He'll be this Sunday. Thank you. Presentations and delegations. We have Ms. Beggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We have a public meeting tonight, and I'm just going to share my screen. So tonight's public meeting, deals with a major red line revision and the removal of the holding provision for the Silverleaf development. So we've received an application for a property formerly known as the Grillo Lands. The property is under new ownership, and as a result, the new owner of the property has come forward with an application to develop the property residentially. Whoops. So the subject property is outlined in red. It is just south of the Forest Trail Estates development and a little bit further south also of the Huron Acres development. The property is designated residential in our official plan. It is zoned R2 with the holding provision, as well as the portion of it is zoned RE, recreational. The R2 zoning permits single-family residential, semi-detached dwellings, and townhouse dwellings as well. The RE recreational zone permits parks and open space, which includes stormwater management facilities. And the holding provision is in place until such time as administration has confirmed there's adequate sewage and water and sanitary capacity to facilitate the proposed development, and a development agreement is registered on title. So this is the original approved draft plan of subdivision that was brought forward. It was subject to this is the current draft plan that is approved. There were a number of former draft plans prior to this one, and this was approved by way of a red line revision. And this particular plan has been, the draft plan approval has been extended a number of times, but this is the most recent draft plan approval that I believe was issued in 2019. So the proposal is to do some modification to the original draft plan. And what we're seeing now is what's shown on the screen. That's what the current applicant has come forward with. And the differences between essentially the original draft plan approval, which we saw on the former slide, and this plan includes a number of, reduces the amount of single family homes. We see quite a few more townhouse dwelling units, so those 2-unit dwellings. And then they've also introduced the townhouse units, which is the 3 dwelling units, the townhouse blocks rather. They've also enlarged the stormwater management pond. They've realigned slightly Sandwich West Parkway, and they've introduced the connection of Mayo Boulevard out to Street C. So the original proposal had a total of 76 units, and this proposal includes 90 units. So as part of the H removal, we circulated under the Planning Act, and we have not received any comments thus far in writing from any members of the public. We have done some consultation with the County of Essex on the file. Infrastructure Services at the county has identified some setback provisions that they would like to see put in place, a detailed setback from the center line of the roadway to the top of bank of the pond. So we're working through that with them, but we're confident that we can accommodate their requirements within the block that we've identified. I should also mention that Amy, I believe from Dillon, is here to comment and has probably some more specific details related to the development proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Beggs. Ms. Farkas, is there anything you want to add now or wait until we open for questions?
I just want, just to reiterate some of the points that were brought up by Ms. Beggs. We have made accommodations for the site for a larger swim pond, and that's really to take into account current IRCA guidelines as well as the Huron Acres subdivision to the north. And we're also, hoping that by creating a greater mix with the housing types that we can provide some more diversity. We've gone from predominantly single detached dwellings to townhouses and semi-detached as well as the single detached. And also, as she indicated, we have been having pretty, regular consultation with the municipality, with the county. We've completed all the necessary background studies that have been completed. And we do find that they provide the technical rationale that positively supports the approval. We'll continue to work with the county and the municipality to address any of these the setback requests that have come forward for the stormwater management pond, as well as any right-of-way permits that are required during detailed design for County Road 7. So other than that, I am available for questions if there's any from council or from the public.
Okay, thank you. Council questions, Deputy Mayor Meloche and then Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you to Gudrun, could you pull up the last figure you showed, if possible? So I'm just trying to figure out if I'm looking at the wrong thing here. So I'm looking at in our agenda, figure 4. And the stormwater pond is different in our figure 4. So is that, because this was dated June 29th. So this is the new change. We're getting rid of those houses on that side of this. Okay.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Milosh. Thanks for pointing that out. That was something that we caught. So the original report had this figure in, and then when we went to make the figures accessible, the wrong figure got attached to the report. So the report that you see on the screen today the figure that you see on the screen today is the one that they're moving forward with. So the one in your report is incorrect.
Thank you very much. I thought I was going crazy for a second.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. And then just my last question would be, with the county requesting those setbacks, have they requested anything else traffic wise for those intersections? Are we looking at eventually having to put lighted intersections there, signaled, or?
Yes, we, through you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, we did have those discussions with the county, and that intersection has been identified in our Development Charges Act or Development Charges fee to collect in future signals there. They'll be putting in some of the underground infrastructure now. The signals won't go up at this time, but likely, a development that happens after this at some point will trigger the need for those signals.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Carrick.
Yes, thanks. So the signals was one of the questions in the pond as well. But the third question is the townhomes. What size are we talking about square footage wise roughly? Do we have that idea?
Square footage for what?
The
Councillor Carrick?
townhomes,
The
townhouses.
Okay.
That may be a better question for Amy to answer. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to market with on those units.
Amy, do you have an idea what they're doing?
Ashley, I know that we're just working within the parameters of the footprint right now. I don't have the actual floor plans for the townhouses, but that's something that we can provide to the municipality.
Okay, that'd be helpful. And I'm very supportive of this. I think the more housing we can put in, the better. And especially with the townhouses, hopefully the price will be a little less than the other ones. So maybe a little more affordable down the road would be awesome. Thank you.
Any other council questions? Council's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Milosh, support Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Mr. Osborne, we have an Adopt a Street Trail program.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. In early 2022, council requested information on what an Adopt a Street program may look like. When we began to investigate, and we looked at an Adopt a Trail program as well when we were looking at it. So an Adopt a Street or Adopt a Trail program is where a group or organization adopts a section of street or trail and performs some general cleanup, usually garbage cleanup. The road or trail is then signed to acknowledge the group. Typical setting for where it would take place on a roadway is a collector or arterial road where there's not a lot of residential frontage. In LaSalle, we don't know of any Adopt a Street program that we've ever had. However, we did have an informal Adopt a Trail program in and around 2008. Looking through some of the records, there was some uptake initially. I don't know of any signs that were put up, but over a few years after that, it did start to fall off, and we don't really have any more records beyond that. Talking with some other municipalities, there are a number of municipalities, counties, and cities that have a program. There are a large number that do not have a program. Some of the common elements that we saw in municipalities that did have it, on the group, some of the responsibilities for the groups are they'd have to commit to a few cleanups per year and a time commitment of around 1 to 3 years. Some of the responsibilities on the municipality's part were to supply safety equipment, vests, gloves, garbage bags, traffic signage, things like that. Provide a contact person and some supervision over the work, provide the signage installation and removal, and then pick up garbage bags on the day of a cleanup. Benefits of a program like this is just the cleanup and beautification of the areas, as well as the community engagement and recognition aspects. But with any benefits comes some challenges, unfortunately. The biggest challenge that administration has seen in looking into these programs is from the health and safety standpoint. The volunteers that would be doing the work would essentially be somewhat town workers, and we'd have to supply them with the adequate training that would need to be done by town staff to prepare them and for some of the items that might come up when they're doing the work. There also comes some Wsib risks potentially that would come with this type of work, and if they are considered workers for the town. On roadways, there's additional risks just with the traffic aspect and the training that goes along with that. That's why we kind of decided initially to look at the trail aspect of it as well. Work within the trail is less risky from that side. There are still some hazards that may exist with some of the items that, you know, could be found along pathways and in parks. One of the challenges would also be the kind of over supervision and oversight, general coordination and administering training. Likely would have to come from a supervisor level. And depending on what kind of uptake comes out of the program, would potentially have an effect on existing duties. So that's just something to keep in mind. The field support from our, could easily handled, I think, from our workers, picking up garbage bags, as well as erecting the signs. It's something we're already set up to do, so that wouldn't be too difficult to do. Because of these challenges, at this time, we're not recommending to implement a program at this time. Should council wish to have administration pursue this further, we defer it to future budgets when additional resources might be available. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Councillor Akpata, then Deputy Mayor Malash.
Through you to Mr. Osborne, I understand what you said. My question is always about the entities that would be sponsoring. So if we look at a municipality down the road, a fallen soldier was on a facility, and then once some discreditable behavior was discovered in his background, his name was taken off. So how do we know that the entity that is sponsoring in and of itself is in line with our values, our goals and objectives in the municipality?
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Councillor Akpata, through your worship. I think that is something we would have to vet. Just for your information, some of the names we saw on the 2008 program were the Girl Guides, King Club. I think that was mostly it, but there might have been some others that I might be missing. So that is something that we would have to look into, and is a bit different today than it might have been in 2008 as well.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you very much. This was actually brought to my attention by a resident, and they had visited a few other municipalities who had this type of program, and they found that when someone's name was attached to a trail or a street, they cared for it more. They went on their walks, and during those walks they picked up the extra garbage, and I think that's what they were looking for. I think this is maybe a little bit more complex than I think the original intention was. The first few municipalities that you were able to look at, did they all have this WSIB training, or is that something we're looking at?
The ones that through your worships, to Deputy Mayor Malash, the municipalities I was able to speak with, the programs, they hadn't really considered that. Their programs were a bit dated, where they weren't recent or freshly policies. They hadn't considered that. When I mentioned it, they said, "Oh, that's an interesting point." So they hadn't really looked at that, but it's something that we would be, if we had a program like this, we would be administering work, volunteer work, basically. And it was something that through discussions with Mr. Hyra, we identified as a potential kind of risk.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I like the program and I like the idea of it. And I like that our residents get involved. And as we all know in the past, it's been the same groups who seem to go around the town and pick up garbage. And I just would have liked to see a chance for more of our residents to get involved and have that kind of desire to take care of something that had their name on it. I don't know if this is something we could revisit in the future budget if you guys are interested, but I think it's still something we should look into. I still feel we're maybe complicating it a little bit more than it needs to be. I don't think people are looking to schedule times to do volunteer work. I think they're just looking to sponsor something and clean up as they go. So maybe just nothing so robust, maybe something a little bit more streamlined is something we were looking for. But if we could refer that to a future budget and look at it kind of at a different way where it's not so town run.
Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you. Through you. I think to Jonathan, probably, I think this is one of those instances where it's unfortunate that the rules overshadow the volunteer aspect of it. Because I know years back through my work with guides and scouts, that was something that we taught our young people, that was taking pride in your community, and that's getting them out there to pick it up. And it's unfortunate now that we have all these rules that they're looked at as town employees, even though they're volunteers, that we have all these rules that say, no, we're really sorry, but it's nice that you want to do it, but we can't let you at the present time. So what I'd like to see is a report from administration to see how we can build it into the budget, how we can do something effective with our groups that want to do it, because there are like Boy Scouts and Girl Guides and Rotary and Kin Club. There's all kinds of groups out there that want to do the work. And if we can give them the right information to get it done, that's what I'd like to see us do. So that would be, my motion is to take it, that we not implement it right now, but we arrange to have an appropriate policy to run a road or trail clearing.
You good with that one? Okay. Do we have a seconder on the motion? Councillor Ekpata. Any discussion? Do you have comments?
Yes, your worship, to my colleague's motion, I think that involving the community is something that we should strive to do. And to Deputy Mayor Malash's comments, perhaps it could be simplified. I understand the liability and I understand the concerns that have been raised, but if we don't look at it, sir, I think we might be missing an opportunity to engage with the public. And if it turns out that the precursors that my colleague has given, let us make the decision then, but at least let's move forward so that we can start to have the discussion as to how we can engage people in the municipality. Thank you, worship.
Okay, so the motion is to have a policy brought forward to budget sessions and see what the costs are involved. Correct? You're adding that, Jonathan? Okay. All in favor? It carries. Thank you. Peter Mara, we have the Waterfront Park redevelopment update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's report is before you is a result of a redesign and modified and presenting an updated concept and an updated direction for the Waterfront Park redevelopment. As council maybe remember, back in December of 2021 at the budget session, administration brought forward a extensive report that spoke to a number of changes that were forthcoming or contemplated as part of the waterfront redevelopment. A lot of those changes were in essence due to constructability aspects, and that full report is enclosed tonight as Exhibit 1 of this report. Coming out of that December 15th, 2021 council meeting, in that report, council gave direction to administration to work on I guess, cleaning up that rudimentary sketch that was part of that first report. And tonight's report actually provides you with a few figures that show the outcome of what the administration team has been working on over the last few months. So specifically to the revised and updated concepts, exhibits 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the updated results of the work that has happened over the last few months. Up on the screen right now, you'll see Exhibit 2. And this shows you what is currently under construction and what is meant to be occupied within the next few months. So this is part of the initial phasing work between 2021 up to and including 2026. So this is the event center with the event plaza in the park and the associated parking lot to support that event center. So this work is anticipated to be completed within the next few months, at which time the town will take it over and we will do our outfitting inside and work from there. Next slide, please. So the next slide, Exhibit 2, shows some additional work that is part of this initial phasing and work that is anticipated and proposed. So what you see here is additional work in addition to the event plaza and the parking lot. So here you'll see the addition and the moving and rejigging of what the skate trail and water feature will look like in its location, including with that is the proposed festival lawn area. Right now, you'll see in that festival lawn area, there's an extensive mound of dirt that was the excavation from the parking lot. That needs to be level graded and seeded, and there's also additional fill that needs to be brought into that particular area. So that is work that is anticipated to occur over the next 3 to 4 years. There is some extensive grading work to occur in there. There is, once we get that work completed, it will take a year or two for the grass seed and the grading and planting of the grass to take place and be sustainable for foot traffic and in any events that we may want to throw in there. So that is what is occurring in the next few years. Next slide, please. So on top of this, we add on now the proposed work and the modifications at the Benoit House. So this Exhibit 4 represents the 2021 to 2026 inclusive budget that has been proposed and planned to be spent over the next 5 years. So that is what will hopefully be completed by the end of 2026. We are currently working on some preliminary plans for the Benoit House and the Coach House on what work needs to be done there and what will be completed as part of that. So that is anticipated to be out for tendering within the next probably 6 months or so, and then there is a time frame. There's a lengthy time frame for some of that restoration work to occur because a lot of that is specialty windows and things of that nature. So there is a long time frame for that particular construction side of things. Next slide, please. So the next slide builds upon what was proposed and presented to council in December. So this shows the overall future concept of what is proposed down at the Front Road Park. This takes into account what was presented in December of 2021 and shows all the future works. Again, anything beyond Exhibit 4 is future works. And so you'll see here where the existing boat ramp remains in the exact location as it exists today. There is some modifications and rejigging of some of the boat ramp parking lot, which will help to accommodate. You'll see that we have located a future pool, which was not part of the original concept. So that future pool lies in behind the parking lot of the behind the Toronto Dominion Bank there. And in behind the pool, you'll see the proposed sports facilities, the sand volleyball courts and the basketball courts. Also on that, you'll see an expanded mixed use area that is basically bound by Adams Lane, Laurier, and Front Road, as per some of the public consultation about the expansion of some of the works there. So certainly this figure is provided for council to see the overall vision at this point in time. Again, anything beyond Exhibit 4 is future work. Administration has really been working on what to proceed with beyond 2026. And one of the concepts that we are working on that we thought would be advantageous for future councils and future decisions beyond 2026 is introducing and carrying out a Front Road District Waterfront Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan. So internally, we had a number of discussions about what that means and how does that work. So as part of this action plan in economic development, some of the goals that council is trying to achieve at this location is providing a tool for revitalization of that Front Road district, as well as providing a tourist attraction. So what we are looking at doing as part of this in the interim, so shortly, if council approves this, that we would go for an RFP to have this economic development plan completed. And what that will do is look at the entirety of Front Road, a number of aspects, and ensure that future phases are things that will spur on some of that economic redevelopment of the area. And things of that nature. There may be things that come out of that consultation that are not even on our plan that we may want to modify. There may be things on our plan that is better left for the private entities to take care of as opposed to the public entity. So there's that would allow us to rejig some of the thoughts and ideas and really help council, guide council in the future for future expenditures beyond the 2026. That plan, we figure, is about a 6 to 8 month process. It is a process that will involve the entirety of the Front Road district area, a little bit more public outreach with respect to those businesses along Front Road and things of that nature. And we will carry through that with the consultant team at the time to bring that forward. The cost of that particular study is anywhere from the range of $40,000 to $60,000 within the current 2021 to 2026 budget that has been set aside. That is easily absorbed within that budget, so it will be funded through the current 5-year plan that has been put forward and allocated to this project. So in summary, the recommendation is for council to receive the report tonight and the current figures that have been prepared, and also for council to authorize administration to proceed forward with releasing an RFP to engage services of the professionals to complete this Waterfront District economic development plan and strategy for this project. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm available for any questions.
Council questions. Deputy Mayor Malash. And then
Thank you, Mayor Bondi.
Councillor Carrick.
Through you to Mr. Mara. I like the plan. I think I've received a few comments from the public who have looked at more Exhibit 5 and have questions about Exhibit 5. And that one of them is around the pool. And I know we've looked at possibly putting in a pool where at one point we were removing it altogether and we're relocating it. So the question was, is the pool being removed sometime in the near future until the new one's developed, or do we leave that pool until it's closer to? Because I mean, like we said, we're talking 2026 and beyond. So what would be the plan for that part right now?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Malash. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly the existing pool will remain in place and functional as long as we can. There is no intention to removing the existing pool and building the new pool at this point in time. Should council wish to proceed with this mixed use where it is proposed to be located over the existing pool, at that point, if that is decided to move forward, then we will have to revisit on how does the outdoor pool function? Does it get removed? Do we build a new one? And so there's a whole host of things that we are going to have to meander through as we discuss moving forward with some of this work. Certainly sponsorships for that pool, if sponsorships come forward for the pool, we could look at accelerating the new pool, removing the old one or things of that nature. But at this point in time, administration envisions that the existing pool remains in place. It is been fixed up a number of times, so there's enough there for at least the next 5 or 6 years. Hopefully that it will hold up for us, and then as we move forward, we can put a plan in place if council wishes to review and build a new outdoor pool and review how that will function. But at this point in time, the existing one would remain in place.
Okay, thank you. The next question was around the existing boat launch. At the time, over the last few years, we've done some maintenance work to it, but we never really did any major work because we were expecting to relocate that. Now that we are leaving it, I know it's not highlighted in any of the first 4 figures. Is there going to be any work done to those? Or what you've done in the last year and a half, is that sufficient?
Thank you. When the water levels were high out there on the existing boat launch, we did do a major fix to the boat launch to raise them. So we did spend some additional money out there to raise the boat launches. I believe most of them are in a good it's in good shape at this point in time. So again, they're not it's not the best of boat launches, but at this point, it seems to be working functionally fine. As those things become forward, we can certainly allocate money for that at council's wishes through budget sessions and things of that nature. So certainly we will have to review that as the demand or as the need arises for major renovations there. We'll bring that forward to council if those arise.
Thank you. And my last one. It is the transient boat slips as well as a stormwater retention pond. Again, I know it's exhibit 5, so we're not looking at any time in the near future. However, I just want to express that I still think this is extremely important that we keep these transient boat slips. I think it's going to be a major part of our tourism down by the water there. And I'm hoping that stormwater retention pond, I know we're doing some work in there now. I don't know if we're doing anything else in there, but for look wise, since our event center will be opening and functional, that it's presentable to the public and it's not kind of construction mess for 5 years. So I know retention pond isn't really in the first few figures, but I assume we are doing some work to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Milosh. Certainly, as part of the economic development plan, the transit marina will be looked at as part of that economic development plan. It might come out that there needs to be another marina relative to, as opposed to a transient, a full-blown marina at this location. We don't know that, and we want to make sure that we understand that with the existing marinas within town and things of that nature. So that'll be part of what we look at, and it may just stay as a transient marina at this point in time, but that will kind of be worked out and discussed as part of the economic development plan. Certainly, we will want to use a transit marina to attract tourists, so that is something that we would look at. With respect to the stormwater management pond, it's not shown on any of the figures because it actually falls into the DMAF grant that is currently under study. That solution of the stormwater management pond is part of the DMAF solution at this point in time. So as that plan gets finalized, there will be an opportunity to use that DMAF funding to do the stormwater management pond. So there will be a lot of construction out here for the next 4 or 5 years. Again, that DMAF grant currently shows all the storm sewers on Front Road being redone. So Front Road will be dug up a number of times to do that. So there is going to be an evolution of dealing with a lot of the construction processes over the next 3 to 4 years. So the timing of that is still a bit unknown on the storm drainage because we're in the EA process right now. But as we finalize that EA and get into what the budgets are for that and the scheduling of that, that's when we'll start to understand what that timing is for the storm drainage work.
Councillor Carrick. Can't hear you, Mark.
Can you hear me now?
You're good.
Okay, sorry. So just so I'm clear and we're clear that we're only committed to up to Exhibit 4 at this point. We're not going past that as far as these are just, it's drawings, but at the same time, we're not committed to anything above what we've already committed to in Exhibit 4 is my understanding. But having said that, I like the idea of the input and the study, and I think it's a necessity, especially with some public input as we move forward. And I like what I see, and I think I agree with everything that's been said. I just want to make sure that we make it clear that we're only committed to this point, so that people don't look at this and say, well, this is written in stone. So I just want to make that very clear. So as we move forward, things could change other than what we've decided to do at this point. And I like what I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carrick. Certainly, up to and including Exhibit 4 is what is in the next 2021 to 2026 timeframe and budgeted for. Anything beyond that, that's shown on Exhibit 5 is future work. And again, it is subject to changes as demand or as needs arise. Certainly, if something comes out of this economic development plan of something that we're currently missing that should be on this plan, we can review it at that time, find a location on fitting something in, or maybe there's something on here that from an economic development standpoint doesn't make sense, and we can massage that as well when we get into that time period to working. So certainly, as you had mentioned, everything on and up to Exhibit 4 will be built by 2026, up to and including 2026. Anything beyond that is future works and subject to budget availability.
Thank you. Any other council questions? Councillor DeJerle.
For you to Peter. I just want to confirm that I'm reading this properly, that the upgrade on the former marina, that we're not doing anything with that right now, but that'll be part of the DMAF work in 2023. Like this is page 51-ish or 60. This one.
Yes, that is correct. So the former Westport Marina, that refers to the former Westport Marina boat slip, marina cut there. That's what that refers to. So yes, there besides removing the current docks that are there, we will minimize the work that occurs there, subject to the findings of the storm drainage work that we may do the stormwater management pond and some remedial work for some of the steel break walls. What we are discovering while we have been removing some of the docks, you will see some of the docks are going to stay in place because that is what is actually holding up the steel break wall. If we remove the docks, we may lose the steel break wall. So some of those docks will remain. We will have to take a look at that. So the steel break wall is in need of repair, but that is part of some of the storm drainage work that I was referring to as part of that EA.
Okay, and the existing marina that we have, we're leaving that alone. Is there anything we can do? I know that parking seems to be a problem down there often. Is there anything that we can do to mitigate that problem?
On the interim, the way the marina operates today will be the way the marina operates into the near future. As part of the proposed long-term plan, there is some redoing of the parking lot. So currently the spots within the parking lot are really large. Just by repaving and repainting some of the parking stalls, we can get a bit more parking spots in there. So currently that will happen in the next phases when we get into some of the changes of the parking lot of the boat launch. But today or tomorrow and next year, the way the boat launch operates will remain the same. So if the boaters are spilling over into some of the grassed areas, that will continue that way because it's right now not under plan to be under construction or anything of that nature. So it will be something that will have to be reviewed. At some point, there is going to have to be a limit to the number of boats that are allowed to launch there, because I think we could pave the entire 60 acres and still not have enough parking lot. But again, it's a function of how much pavement do we want in a park setting and balancing that versus the needs of some of the other demands that are out there.
Thank you.
Any other council questions? Seeing none, I see we have some members in the audience. I'm going to break protocol here. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask while you're here? If you do, can you come forward, just state your name for the record and push the red button, Mr. Steve Riom?
Where's it working? Okay, my name's Steve Ram, and thank you for breaking protocol. I was not planning on speaking, but I have just one question. On the last slide that was put up, there's some trails that go along the river and such. And over the last year or so, I was invited to go to a meeting and a new group called the LaSalle Community Fund, and I was interested in that because of the Small Coast project that I have some passion about for many years. I'm thinking that LaSalle, you didn't see the river when you went through LaSalle. It was too far away, like other communities might have. And I went around asking a lot of questions, and I don't know, Mayor, if I asked you this question or not, but have you ever been to Amherstburg for an ice cream?
I never go to Amherstburg.
You never,
Just kidding.
well, okay, and then I got to ask somebody else then. Most of the time when I ask that question, I get a yes, because we go down there with our kids, our grandkids. wives, girlfriends, not at the same time. But it's not because the ice cream is better there, it's because the river's there. And it's nice to walk along the river in any part of the country. So it's a shame if that's phase, that what we saw there was not even going to be addressed for in many years. There is some trails there. There is some nice view of the river in the Millennial Gardens and along the left side of the boat ramp and over behind where the Strawberry Festival used to have a beer tent and shoot fireworks off and stuff. So there's some property there that could be used temporarily, I think. I just think that the people in LaSalle and the taxpayers and everybody are seeing things being built. They're seeing some really, I applaud you on the overall concept. I think it's great. And I know it takes time and a lot of money to do things like that, but to have to delay for another 5 or 6 years, the ability to have go have an ice cream or whatever and go for a walk down the river seems like a shame. And I think there's probably a way of doing that. And I did notice that at the end of the conversation, there was some comments that said, well, then there might be some opportunity to do some things. And if we have the finances or the will or the desire to do certain things, it can always be done. So that being, I just wanted to comment on that. I know I'm the group, the LaSalle Community Fund has a meeting with administration on August the 4th, I believe. And I'm going to be there and we're going to talk a little bit, I hope, about some ideas that maybe could be considered. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And yes, obviously go to Amherstburg, not for ice cream, for yogurt. Anyone else? Please, Sam. Wanted to thank Mr. Mayor for being very informative and sharing with us some of the changes that have been proposed and keeping us up to date. My concerns are that the residents of Adams Lane are somewhat being not totally brought into the loop with what's been happening. I can't recall a time where a public information session was held in that area so that we could all come in. Sure, we have these things up on the screen or internet, especially with COVID. It's been somewhat difficult, but wanted to find out if there was some sort of a buffer between the residential area of Adams Lane and this development. You want to tackle that, Peter?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in response to the question, there has been no in-person public meetings with respect to the overall original design at this point in time. When we originally developed the concept, we did a public outreach through PlaySpeak, and we engaged a lot of comments through that process. Again, we were in the middle of the pandemic, and in-person meetings were not possible at that time due to restrictions. So certainly there has been no specific in-person meetings with a lot of the folks in the area. We did do a number of individual virtual meetings with some of the business folks in this area and along Front Road, including the marinas and things of that nature. Real focused consultation with some of them. With respect to offsets to the commercial sites from the residential, it will all be within the zoning regulations to meet the requirements of that. So any of the current zoning regulations at this point in time would be met. The details of that are still again future facing, and we would have to review what that might be at that point in time, what proposals might come forward and what facilities may be built or occupied in those locations. But certainly at this point in time, I'm comfortable in saying that any current planning requirements relative to the zoning bylaws and things of that nature would be met at this location as well.
Sam, before we go on, can you give me your name and address for the record, please? It's Sam Georges, 21 Adams Lane. Thank you. The next question is, has a thought been put through to see if Adams Lane can be put into a cul-de-sac? While I like the Amesburg idea, and my family and I all go there and we invite people to go there as well, you can only imagine the level of traffic that happens, that flows through that area, through the residential streets and the houses that are there. As well, even now with this, without this development, there's a constant traffic of trucks and boats and things like that going through to the marina and to the boat launch. And we would like to make this back to what it was originally, which is a residential street. And you know, it's easy sometimes to see that if nobody's interested, then you plow ahead and you keep doing this. But it's one of those things where you want to future-proof this development so that the future mayor and the future councillors and all those people don't have to get calls 24 hours a day from residents that are concerned about the traffic and the noise and all those things. While we welcome this kind of a development, and we appreciate what the town is doing to bring people to that waterfront, which we would love to share with everybody. But at the same time, we're also have children. We also like to sleep at night. We also like to enjoy our homes too. And in my opinion, I think some variation or a minor, change to the design to make this into a cul-de-sac or to make this into a pedestrian-friendly area versus a car-friendly area in that area. Now, that being said, we would like a little bit more security in that area, because what we notice is from the youth clubs and things like that, there's a lot of teenagers and people causing trouble sometimes at the rowing club at night after hours. We brought this to the attention of city councilors previously. There has been spotty increased patrols, but it's never consistent, and problems still persist. So there's no fencing in that area. There's no buffering between the residents and this proposed development. That's one of my concerns. Trying to see if there's anything else. Of course, anything in terms of closing off that area, you would still have to make it or design it or engineer it to the point where emergency vehicles would be able to flow through. So perhaps maybe some bollards that are collapsible, things like that. So there is ways that you can, meet every concern. The other thing is, in all the diagrams that we've been seeing, hardly any attention has been paid to Front Road. I got to say that it took us by surprise that when we started hearing that the Front Road was going to get reduced to one lane, started taking steam, and it became kind of a given at this point. And we don't know where that came from. Front Road is a major thoroughfare. And if you want people to come into your development, you certainly want to keep that traffic flowing. And the alternative of making it at one lane, all that's going to do is back up traffic all the way up to Gary and beyond, and all the way around the road, the bend. So really, while you could say that you've done traffic studies and things like that in favor of a bike lane and other things. Yes, I would welcome bike lanes. I would welcome all those things, but there's got to be a better way to do it than reducing front load to one lane. And I don't think that's the right way to go. And I think I speak for my neighbors when we come to that, because many of us still work downtown, commute back and forth. We go to family and friends in Amesburg, and this restriction is going to just back everything up. Okay, thank you, Sam. Mr. Maher will address those issues.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. There, at the current time, there is no proposal to close off any roads along Front Road or cul-de-sac, anything. As it was discussed regarding the reduction in lane on Front Road, that has been identified in our current transportation and active transportation master plan as being introduced as a pilot project. We have not ventured down that avenue just yet to do that as a pilot project. Again, as I mentioned, the storm drainage work is going to require a significant amount of disruption to Front Road. So there is no point in doing some of that work at this point in time. So once some of the storm drainage work is done, that pilot project will be reviewed. It will need a study to deal with that. And certainly what we will do as part of that study and pilot project is implement this for a period of 2 years to gauge how how this reduction of a lane functions. The idea is to make one lane in each direction with a center left turn lane to slow the traffic down. There is about 18 to 20,000 vehicles a day on this route. One lane in each direction with a center left turn lane will handle that capacity. 80% of that traffic is currently pass-through traffic. So certainly if we're trying to spur on economic development, we want to slow people down and get people to visit some of these areas and provide some of those opportunities. In addition to that, we want to make sure people are able to get there through bikes and walking and things of that nature as well. So the introduction of some of that stuff is important. If the pilot project is deemed successful, the next steps after a pilot project would be to complete an environmental assessment for a front road to see how do we implement this on a permanent basis. That may include closing some of the roads. It may include looking at some cul-de-sac in some of the streets, and that is really a future phase of some of this proposed work. But certainly with respect to introducing this as a pilot project is something that still needs to be discussed, and picking a time frame of when that occurs. Certainly we want to have some of that major construction work completed before we implement any pilot project to ensure that, you know, traffic is not being diverted to Matchett or Malden Road. It's finding alternate routes through LaSalle, such as Howard or things of that nature. So certainly we want to make sure that it works from a pilot project standpoint, and then review how that gets implemented on a permanent basis.
If you have any more comments, I don't want to get into just a question and
that's okay.
answers, but do you have any other comments we can put on record?
So I just wanted to find out, is this reduction of one lane, is that a done deal, or is that
Correct. Not yet. And if it is, it would be by the time we get the DMA program, what is 2-3 years?
That is correct. It's currently identified as a proposed pilot project in our transportation and active transportation master plan. It's just sitting on a piece of paper at this point in time as a proposal and a concept. To bring that forward will be something that we will have to bring forward to council at the appropriate time to initiate the studies and implement that pilot program. So it is not firmed up at this point, but it is a concept that has support from council. So certainly when we get into bringing those things forward, those will be future public consultation meetings through council meetings to identify how and when this gets completed as a pilot project.
okay? Thank you. But with regards to some of the other issues that I brought with regards to security and things like that, is there some other public session that we can give our input?
As chair of the Police Services Board, anytime we get complaints, I tell everyone, call the police. Then it's a recorded call and it goes in their database. If you're having issues at the rowing club, it's the first I ever hear of it. But if you see something happen, call the non-emergency line, report it 969-5210, and they'll address the issue. Usually when anything comes forward, which is usually speeding on every street in LaSalle, they'll take proper protocol. And Mr. Morrow's involved in traffic calming measures as well. But in this case, if it's criminal activity, then they'll do the proper rounds and what they have to do.
Okay, I'll double check with them and follow up with that. Thank you.
Thanks. Sure. One more. Sorry. And your name and address for the record, please.
Stanley Bergeron, born and raised in LaSalle. I'm also an employee of the Township of Sandwich West. Until annexation came around, I ended up with the Windsor Utilities Commission, and that's where I retired.
Mr. Bergeron, your address, please.
I'm having difficulty hearing because I have hearing aids, so
Address,
yeah.
where you live.
I now live in Windsor.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
380 Policia 1806 and Raw Winter Terrace. Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. As you know, you've all received the Windsor WF Bidworthy manual. He is a impressionist artist, and I'm sure you haven't had time to read it, but it's 61 page and full of illustrations and so forth. My goal is I've been trying to get in touch with Miss Finero, but we are having phone tag, and I was hoping to meet her tonight and give her this here. as you know. Anyways, what my plan is, I've been collecting Mr. Stidworthy's paintings. He studied under the group of 7. He studied under Franz Johnson. And so he is a prolific artist, and he studied under several other artists as well. And I'm looking for a home for Mr. Stidworthy. And I'm thinking LaSalle had a place for him. It would attract a lot of people. Harrow has an art gallery. Amherstburg has an art gallery. Kingsville has an art gallery. Windsor has an art gallery. I was featured at the Windsor Art Gallery for the solo exhibition for 3 months a couple of years ago. So he is prolific enough to be able to be shown in a large art gallery. I have over 200 paintings. I've collected them myself because I knew Mr. Stidworthy, and I've continued to collect because his paintings are fantastic. I know that there are 600 more paintings out all over Canada. Even I had a phone call from a gentleman from Florida the other day. He has one. He's gonna bring it to me. I've had Montreal call, Las Vegas call. I'm Google, so anybody can Google me. Google Mr. Stidworthy or Stan Bergeron. They'll get the story because there was an article in the Windsor Star years ago, and Google saw it and put it in on Google. So I won't take up any more of your time, but I'm looking for a home for Mr. Stidworthy. And LaSalle, since he lived on Willow Drive in LaSalle, he should be shown in LaSalle. He worked for the Prince Edward Hotel. He was the chief art decorator for the Prince Edward Hotel. I know you haven't had time to read it, but hopefully in time, in your spare time, you will, and you'll understand the importance of this artist. So I'll leave it with you, and hopefully I'll meet with Ms. Finero at a later date, and we'll go from there. If you are interested, if not, I might have to go to another location to show his paintings. I thank you very much for hearing me. I didn't come here thinking I'd be addressing you, but I'm glad I did, and I'm glad that you did see me for that. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. I think I've seen that through the prior mayor had it, and I leaf through it. But if it's okay with Ms. Finero, you leave her a copy, and you can set up a time to discuss it, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming forward. Okay, I'm going to ask Ms. Jean to tell. We're going to change the protocol here in future council meetings. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't vote on this. Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Desjardins, support by Councillor Ekpata. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. And I thought I was doing perfect. Ms. Jean, if you can tell us what's changing in procedures so everyone can understand, viewing audience as well as I believe councillors are aware of what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me? Okay, great. So I believe it was at the June 28th council meeting that Deputy Mayor Melange had inquired about putting all information items on a consent agenda, similar to what you do at County Council. And what that means is that council will receive all information items with one motion. So traditionally what we've done is if we've had a report to be received or correspondence, we've listed them individually on the agenda and had a motion on each item. But with a consent agenda, we would only have the one motion receiving all the items at once. So if you see on today's agenda, item I, information items to be received, there's 5 items on there, including the summary of reports. The recommendation is that items 1 through 5 be received. And of course, if a member of council wishes to discuss any of these items, of course, we can, you can ask administration to discuss and vote on that individually as well. But moving forward, we would have just information items as a consent agenda.
Perfect. Thank you. Council's pleasure. Motion received. Okay, moved by Councillor Ekpata, seconded by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. Is there any items someone would like to pull out? Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. I just didn't know if we should discuss item C as it is a motion this evening. So I wasn't sure if we still wanted to leave it as an item in there.
That is under notice of motion, but we'll deal with it then. It's just to receive it. Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, no bylaws. Questions and or statements by council members. Councillor Ekpata. Oh, wait a minute. We do have a bylaw, 8723. I'm sorry. Okay. Forget it. That's confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Ekpata.
Through your worship, I have a couple of questions. One to administration, I think it might be going to Peter. Peter, do we have any updated information on the EA that's going on Malden Road?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Ekpata, that was a council question that report will be coming to the first meeting in August. And all the that report has actually been prepared in the clerk's hands at this point to be folded into the agenda, and appropriate parties who have asked to be notified have already been notified as well of that report coming to the first meeting in August.
Thank you very much, your worship. Second question. Again, I think it's going to Peter as well. Peter, I sent you some pictures that were sent to me by a resident. Just a question about ETR, Essex Terminal Railway, and safety within the community. Probably the longest train. And as I discussed with you, I was stopped at the train tracks, and I guess it's good to be identifiable as a municipal politician when somebody knocks on your door and says, what's going through our community? Is it possible that we could find out from Essex Terminal Railway within the confines that they can share what is going through the community, what the safety protocols are? Again, I don't like to not be able to answer questions. And so when the residents stopped, I said I'd bring it forward to see if we can find out some information from Essex Terminal Railway as to what's traveling through the community.
Thank you, Councillor Ekpata. Certainly, we will make contact with Essex Terminal Railway to inquire on what information they can share. This will probably be of interest as well to the fire department on what is traveling through the area in case of an emergency of that nature. So we will reach out to Essex Terminal Railway, see what type of response we get, and we will share that to council.
Thank you. My third and final question, your worship, is living close to the Front Road expansion. I was walking there late last night with the dog and my cool wife, and we saw a number of young people, and some we recognized from hockey and from Sandwich, who had turned their cars around to light up the volleyball court. Because my understanding is the lights go off at 10 o'clock. Some of these young people recognized me and asked if it was possible for us to consider keeping the lights on a little longer in the summer. I don't know who to direct that question to, your worship.
Mr. Mara.
Thank you. Again, there is currently a park curfew set up, and that is the 10 p.m. Curfew. So that is the timing for all the lights to be turned off with respect to the outdoor facilities. Front Road is a little bit unique, as you have heard tonight. There is residents around there, so leaving lights on longer may be a disturbance to those particular residents. With respect to leaving lights on longer as we complete the 4 tennis courts at the Vollmer, we will have to review that timing. At the Vollmer, it might be a little bit more conducive to leaving lights on a little bit longer and making a special exemption for those current 4 new lit tennis courts for the lack of residents in that particular area. But certainly currently it is set to lights are set to turn off at 10, and if council wishes to have that revisited, I think that bylaw, the parks curfew bylaw, should be something that that gets revisited and determined from that standpoint. But at this point, it is set at 10 p.m. for all of our parks.
Well, thank you. The gentleman who spoke from Adams Lane also raised some residential concerns. So again, I just was asking, I'm not looking to amend or change, just the young people. It's nice to be recognized by young people, your worship, and I asked the question and the answer from Mr. Marr is more than reasonable. Thank you, your worship.
You're welcome. As far as the trains, to my knowledge, the tankers going through are going to the bottling plant in Amherstburg. There's no now that Allied Chemicals closed down, there's no chloride and different chemicals going through. And I'm assuming, Chief, you're not aware of any toxic chemicals being brought through?
Thank you for the question. So we do get a list of dangerous chemicals that are coming through our municipality. We don't know the quantities on a daily basis or a monthly basis. We get projected annual quantities. We are not, privy to the timing or any of that kind of stuff. We are made aware of the chemicals only that we can develop and make sure that we have the proper foam that we would mix with our water to combat or neutralize those elements. And we are made aware of those annually. We do have to sign, though, that we do not share that information with anyone. But Mr. Mara, if you reach out to them, they may share that information with you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments by state council members? Okay, seeing none, we have a notice of motion. So we're going to refer to notice of motion by Deputy Mayor Meloche regarding the spelling of Matchett Road. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. As noted in the agenda, I'm just looking for a report to come back from administration that would see the change be brought forward to now, I guess, match what the city of Windsor is now going to do so that it's continuous correct spelling the entire way through both of our municipalities. And that report would just provide us some numbers on the cost for us to do it and any other things that our residents need to be aware of.
Okay. Seconder. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Confirmatory bylaw 8723, first, second, and third reading. Councillor Desjardins, Councillor Carrick, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. We have scheduled meetings up until August. Thank you for attending. Anybody who joined us by YouTube, have a great night. Stay safe. Enjoy the evening.